player do you think is going to go from a backup role last year to a big impact role this year?
I mean, the easy answer is Jafari Harvey at defensive end. You know, you have both your starting defensive ends leave. I mean, the ones who played. You know, so Quincy Roche dominated Senior Bowl. Looks like he's going to be a top 60, or, you know, 45 to 60, somewhere in there, draft pick. You got first-team All-American Jalen Phillips, who wasn't first-team All-ACC, which is just goddamn asinine, but whatever. And then Gregory Russo, who was a first-team All-American, freshman All-American from 2019 and opted out of last season. So you're going to have three guys in the top 60-ish from defensive end and over the last 2 years who are now going on to the NFL. That means that there's a vacuum of snaps. You know, so you can talk about your Zach McLeod, who's probably going to hopefully move down to defensive end and get some rotation snaps there. You can talk about DeAndre Johnson coming in from Tennessee. You can talk about a lot of other guys, but a guy who's on the roster who was in that rotation is Jafari Harvey. And so I think that it's perfectly set up for him to be stepping into a larger role. So that's just the one, as soon as you see the question, just in terms of snaps on the field and physical profile of this player and the success of guys being the next one up there. Yeah, that is the easy answer for me.
I'm going to take this question a step further if it's very obvious with the Leonard Taylors of the world and Williams and so forth at safety. So if it's the obvious answer, then you can certainly, but I'll take it a step beyond that. If there's anyone under the radar that you think could really see the field and make an impact as a true freshman.
It's funny because I did another video stream on Tuesday with Paul Scoop on the U, and we kind of talked about this. It needs to come to the point where Miami's playing the best players regardless of classification, i.e., you know, in the words of The Wire, seniority is great as long as unless you ain't senior. You know what I mean? And we'll see, because there's been selected times when Miami has played young guys going back for a long time. Look at Duke Johnson back in 2012. You know, Tracy Howard, also in that 2012 recruiting class. You went to that 2009 class, all those Miami Northwestern guys. You start playing a lot of those guys early. And then other selected guys along the way, your Amon Richardses of the world, you know, guys like that. But there's been a plethora of blue chip talents who have had to bide their time for 2 and 3 years behind guys who, with all due respect, are not necessarily that great at college football. You know, and again, evaluating their performance on the football field does not mean that I hate them. I don't. I wish them all individually well. However, if we're talking about sport, I'm going to evaluate your performance in the guise of sport. And it's curious to me how things work or don't work on getting young guys onto the field. So it should be your Leonard Taylors of the world finding rotation snaps as a freshman. Your James Williams of the world finding at least rotation snaps as a freshman. You know, but you also have Avante Williams coming back from an injury. That's a guy who was the number 2 safety in America last year. You know, he'd be a redshirt freshman, but that's a guy. Obviously, anybody at cornerback, because we need guys there, you know. But it's hard to say just because it's been only a selected couple of guys that Miami has really pushed forward in terms of playing as true freshmen, and especially in major roles. So I'm interested to see how that works. And I know what we're going to hear because mat drills started yesterday. You know, mat drills that were brought down from Georgia, Mark Rick, they put the mats down, they do the tape, and they do all these calisthenics and plyometrics and things like that, which are great. But then, you know, we're going to get the depth chart for the beginning of spring practice, and it's going to be somebody who's lightly talented and not really going to play major meaningful snaps in the fall. Think, oh, well, they're at the top of the depth chart because, you know, in the classroom and in the study room and in the meeting room and in mat drills and everything. Yeah, that's fine for morale. It's great to say, hey, you know, Bobby, whomever, you know, Joe, Michael, I don't care. You know, you did a really great job in that. And I see that you work really hard. You're a gym rat and everything. But like, I'm trying to win football games or I'm going to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, let's be real about these things. And I would love it if we were just real about it. You know, this is not rocket science or astrophysics. Like, again, there's just some guys on the roster who are lightly talented, who would be a great fit at maybe a smaller program, but they're, you know, either here as a walk-on, preferred walk-on, bottom of the scholarship roster. Because if you listed all the scholarship players in a row, you know, who would I want? They're going to be towards the bottom of that. And that's okay, because you need program players. You need players to fill out your roster, to have that depth, and those special teamers and those guys who are going to work and everything like that. But if you want to win, then you got to really, if you want to win at this level, then sometimes you need to be a little bit more cutthroat. And if you're talking about recruiting over guys because you want to stack these classes, right? So if I have a mildly talented guy in 1 year and I've recruited over him for 2 years, I don't want to hear about that he's a better operator as a junior out there. He's not a good enough athlete. Let me get these young guys in here. And I'm not sure if we're going to see that. And it's been intermittent if we have. So we'll see what happens come the fall. Because the spring, I'm not really worried about that. I just want to see everybody develop and hopefully stay healthy. I want to see what happens in the fall. So that was a short answer long there. But I'm not really sure what true freshmen are, just because I think Miami's been a little gun shy more than some other teams who have not necessarily had their freshmen do everything, but put them in a starting role and have them do the things that they're good at, you know, and let them cook with that. That's a thing that Miami's kind of shied away from for whatever reason, and hopefully that changes.
For those program players that do check all those boxes that you just mentioned right out of the gate, I don't know that that's necessarily recognition as much as it is possibly an insult, because they know it's not legitimate. They know it's not going to hold.
I mean, look, it's easy to convince yourself of anything. You know what I mean? It's real easy to be first team, you know, number one on the depth chart. Come spring practice, you come out onto the Green Tree practice field or into the Carroll Sofer IPF, and okay, whatever position, up first. Oh, that's me, coach. Oh, all right, I'm in there. I'm going to do this perfectly. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Rooster, front of the line. Cam, front of the line. Donald Chaney, front of the line. Like, you know, that was good and everything, but we only got a certain amount of time in here, so let's get these reps moving where they, you know, and get them to who they need to get to. You know, so, but yeah, it can be. I'm sure that some people could convince themselves that it was going to last for them, because, yeah, you know, I'm working really hard. You know, I've been taking that creatine and I've been on the nutrition and I've been, you know, really studying everything, and I've cut down my extraneous steps and everything, and I'm really being focused. And then it just didn't.
And that's the reality of life.
Yeah,
that's what that is.